So construction, like the economy, it's very cylindrical. So you hit hiatuses, referred to as booms, where things are all great, and you see what we're seeing now, sort of high inflation, really good times. And then we hit the lows, the busts, if you like, and the recession. So I think it stands to reason at some stage we will see a drop, whether it's a sort of a full recession, but it will certainly be a contraction of the industry. To be honest with you, I haven't heard too much kind of from the media around recession at the moment, and it's not something that I'm experienced or can see in the very near future. But I will say, as a business owner, it's certainly something that I've got a close eye on, and something that when I'm making decisions, whether it's sort of investment or resource or staff or costs, I've always got one eye on what comes after this current circumstance. But at the moment, it's really around, we hear or we see in the media, I think it's about 9% inflation across, the UK, the economy. But also in construction, we're seeing sort of huge levels of inflation. We're seeing inflation across the board, but we're also seeing sort of real ramps in inflation on certain materials and supplies. So, I mean, when you're in a sort of market like we are at the moment in construction, it's all around, it's around collaboration, it's around working closer with your contractor if you're a client or a consultant. It's working more closely with suppliers, just to be more informed around what are lead-in periods, what's going on with materials, what are potential future material hikes, because sometimes these are scheduled. So it's kind of, as I said, it's all around collaboration, information gathering, information sharing, and making sure that whatever inflation or cost increases are due to come, you're already thinking about them, they're planned and they're considered. So this is a really difficult one, and it's obviously a very sensitive subject. I mean, the most obvious thing that a client can spot during the course of construction with a contractor is non-performance. So that's where maybe the program starts to slip. You see less resource, whether that's site management and staff on site, applied to the project. You may also see works that are being undertaken by subcontractors maybe not being undertaken on time, being a bit delayed. But also it's not just what you see and you can spot, it's also what you hear. And you don't want to deal with too much hearsay, but if you're kind of hearing murmurs around subcontractors not being paid on time, or subcontractors aren't on site because they haven't been paid, these are all real sort of telltales. Now, again, you don't deal with hearsay, but if you hear it, you certainly act upon it. So like I just said, if the client's already spotting maybe an element of non-performance, or are hearing murmurs on site around subcontractors not being paid or not on site because they haven't been paid, and again, what's this hearsay, you do have to address these matters. So the first thing I would advise is to hold a meeting with senior member of the contracting staff or one of their directors, or even the managing director, depending on the severity, and just ask a question direct. You're not performing, you've heard some of this stuff, is everything okay? Get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Now, we've got to appreciate that the contractor will also have their own commercial considerations and may also be told not to be able to speak about it, fully or openly. So we've got to consider that. If out of that meeting or conversation, you're not quite happy with what you've been told or the result of that meeting, I think it's then time to put some measures in place. So there's a few things that I would be looking to do. Number one would be more scrutiny and closer monitoring of the program. So maybe not waiting to your weekly, bi-weekly, monthly meetings. Have your project manager or contract administrator, or even yourself as the employer client, be doing a more scrutinization of the program and making sure things are happening exactly when they should be happening, as they should be happening. The other thing is, although you should already be doing it, is making sure, absolutely in line with the contract, that all notices are being provided to the contractor on time, in accordance with the clauses, in accordance with the time periods, that should the matter escalate or your worst fears become a reality, you're in a good position to then be able to deal with it later down the line. And there may also be things that your quantity surveyor or financial advisors can do in terms of any sort of credit checks or updated credit checks or scores, if you like, on the contractor that may have changed when you first procured or appointed them. So if a contractor's gone bust or going bust, I mean, there's the three aspects. So you've got your quality aspect, your cost, and your time. So if we start with quality, I mean, your first concern is if there's an element of non-performance, there's a lack of resource on site, there's probably a real disinterest or dissatisfaction throughout the team. The likelihood is the quality, the installation, the works is going to suffer as a result of that. The other part of the quality aspect is if a contractor does go bust, or I say go bust, it's not a term I like, insolvent through whatever means, it could also have an effect on warranties and guarantees of the installed works. Certainly if the subcontractors that started the works don't complete the works. So it can come quite messy, as you can see very quickly on the quality aspect. So there's something there that needs to be addressed. In terms of cost, I mean, it's a pretty obvious one, as you probably appreciate. A contractor goes into insolvency, you've got to pick the job back up, you've lost time, which we'll come on to, so time equals money. But also there's a tendency as time passes, subcontractors may not have got paid. The reality is, and also we've talked previously about inflation, the reality is things are going to cost more money. It's going to cost more money than it did when you procured it or the main contractor procured it. It's going to cost more money to get a subcontractor back onto site, and you probably don't have sight of their original contract terms with the main contractor, so you've got nothing really to verify against. And also, if they haven't been paid, they're looking to recover costs because they know through the administration insolvency process, they're not going to get 100% of their losses back. So it's going to cost more money to get the project back on track. From a time perspective, again, the contractor's gone into insolvency, you've got to put notices, you've got to enact termination clauses alike, which we'll discuss in a minute. So there's time involved in that. But then the biggest time is, what do you do next? If you're looking to bring another main contractor on board, how are you going to package up works complete to works incomplete? Are the subcontractors that are working on it within their supply chain? Some maybe, most probably aren't. So you can see it's not a great solution by re-tendering it under main contracting. But whatever solution you come up with, you've got that lag of procurement to get someone back on site to start managing the project. And then you've got your notification periods to contractors, subcontractors to start back on site. And then you've got this whole sort of learning curve for new people who are coming onto the